I hope it is still helpful for you. I hope you are still finding it, that it resonates. And whatever you're dealing with for this month, I hope that this provides a little bit of guidance for you. I am traveling right now. The setup is different, as you can see, and I apologize for the sound quality, um, lighting, etc. So, my apologies. Okay, and more than anything, I'm very sorry that this is late. Um, yeah, things have been a little bit hectic due to my main job. So I hope you guys can forgive me. And either way, I hope this video finds you well. Um, so I actually had two messages that came out for you. So I'm going to talk about them in succession. Okay. So first of all, when I was shuffling out the spread, it took me a really long time to form like an image. And then once that image came out, the cards started coming out. So what I saw was very distinctly, there's a man, he's driving down like a very mountain, hilly road, okay? It's a two-lane street, and there are a lot of hills. So he's going up the hill, and he's in this really small, white, compact car. It's a very small car. It looks almost like the 80s in rural America somewhere. It looks like the 80s. So he's like I can only see the back of the car, and then he goes up the hill, and then as he descends the hill, you see this power plant, okay? And power plants has that insignia that denotes radiation. So there's a power plant. It's white. It's looming in the distance. So it seems like that's his final destination. And then you see him getting closer and closer. The power plant looms larger and larger. It's emitting smoke. And then his car kind of stops at the gate. There's like security. He gets through, gets to the base of the power plant, and he steps out of the car with a full suit and also his briefcase, okay? So I was thinking that he works there. He works in this very intimidating, looming, like it seems like for many of you, you might work in an environment, in an organization that is like heavily scrutinized. Okay, that's what it feels like to me, because the power plant is huge. It's emitting smoke, so who knows what it's allowing to leak into the environment, right? And then on top of that, it has this huge radiation sign. Okay, is huge. The emblem is like on the side of those smokestacks almost. So I feel that for many of you, for whatever reason, there's a lot of commotion around the work that you're doing. Either the company, the organization is facing a lot of scrutiny from the press, from the public, from the neighbors even that surround that physical structure. And so I do feel like I feel that a lot of you guys identify very strongly with the work that you do. You want work that is meaningful. You want work where your skills and your talents can be on full display. And especially for many of you, you might be like the voice, the face, the model, the mascot for whatever it is that you're working at. You might be a sales rep, for example, for a company that you work at. So you're kind of like the face of the product, okay? You could be very visible in the limelight, especially for many of you. A lot of Leos are politicians, okay? And so I do feel there's a lot of like, you're kind of like in an environment that might be facing a lot of scrutiny, and you're doing the damage control. You might be the PR person that everyone reaches out, and you might have to deflect questions, you might have to create your own red herring in order to distract people from something. From something. You might be hired to take on a position so that you can do damage control. You might be hired on by a firm in order for them to fix something that they've made a mistake on. Now, we are moving away from that November timeframe, and November timeframe was problematic especially for a lot of work environment, and especially for when it comes to their public image, because we had a very profound Mercury retrograde period where a lot of deeply buried things are coming to light, okay, or were coming to light. It was in the sign of Scorpio. And so I felt like a lot of things that people kind of sweep under the rug, a lot of deep, dark held secrets, especially as it pertains to companies, organizations, and work environment and things like that. Things that people in power were trying to hide from the public, or truths that they were trying to distort, or just things that they shove away when no one is looking. I feel that all of that might have come to light recently, and as a result of it, you're kind of called in to do some damage control. Okay, so that's what I was feeling. I just feel like the work environment that you're in is facing a lot of scrutiny. The people you might work with, they might have their own personal issues that's facing a lot of scrutiny. Okay, and they're faced with a lot of scrutiny. And I am sensing a lot of people will come to you for the month of December, asking for advice, like, should I do this? Should I do that? Because they're really concerned about their public image. And, it doesn't mean that they're superficial or vain or shallow. I just feel like there's something going on here where somebody's job might be at stake, and you're kind of called in to either provide some guidance, provide some legal advice, expert advice even, how to de-escalate tension, how to de-escalate a potentially volatile situation, how to, do all of those things, okay? I also feel like, you're good at your job. You're paid very well. For many of you, you're paid very well for the work that you're doing. But behind it, I feel that, it's a job. So you try to do what you're told. So for example, you work with you're hired on as a contractor to do some damage control for a company, and you might not like that company very much. And so, even if you don't agree with it, agree with the things they're trying to hide, the things that they're trying to sweep under the rug, you're hired to do this job. And so you will do it to the best of your capabilities. So I don't see any moral, ethical conflicts here. I just feel almost as if there's a lot of fires to put out. Okay. So going back to that image, there's a second part. So, he steps out. And he's in a suit, really nice suit, in this mini car, but he's in a suit, and he holds a briefcase. And so, my initial thought was, oh, he works here, he's an employee. But then I see him like in that briefcase. It's not like papers or laptop or things like that. I guess in the 80s they didn't have laptops. It's not like papers. It's a science kit. Okay, so he has like those what are those, the droppers where you take a little bit of a water sample and you put it into a slide, things like that. He has a dropper. He has machines to test the radiation level, and so he opens it up, puts it on top of the front of the car, the hood of the car, and then he starts to go around the area, the power plant. He starts inspecting. So that's when I was like, oh, he's an inspector. So he's not called out to do some damage control, even though that message applies to some of you. Okay? But on the other hand, you might be also called in to inspect, to appraise, to make a final determination on something, to see whether or not it's sound, whether or not it's safe, whether or not it meets the regulation and the standards. And I feel like for many of you, and this could be, just literally just one person I'm speaking to, but I feel like there was something that was unearthed. All of a sudden, it just came to light, and, you're called in to to make the final determination, to inspect, to appraise, to look at it. And he does his thing. Okay, he walks around multiple times, collecting multiple samples, and then at the end of it, what I saw at the end of that picture of that scene was he puts in he takes like a poster from his car. Okay, and then you see him get back into the car. He drives away. The security gates closes behind him. He stops the car, gets back out, and he puts this giant poster with the radiation, the hazardous sign on it, hazardous sign on it, and it says like deemed unsafe. Okay, that's what it says, deemed unsafe. And so I feel that there's a situation around you where you guys are in a very important position to protect people from, okay? You're bringing something to light so that people can be made aware, so that people can, you know, 'cause knowledge is power, right? But I feel like there might be something that is unsafe, that is unfit, and you're drawing attention to it. You're calling it for what it is. Okay, so in a way, this could be in a work environment, but then I also feel that for many of you, the word unfit parent came in. Okay, so you might be, for example, a social worker, where you're inspecting homes, the home environment. Is this a safe place for children to be in? You might be inspecting like a retirement home where they take care of elderly people. You might be inspecting like a preschool, even a high school. You might be like, you know, one of those superintendents or one of those inspectors, academic inspectors, to make sure something is meeting the requirements, it's passing, you know, the regulations and the codes, and make sure other people are abiding by it, because if they don't abide by it, it can cause long-term negative impact on not only, you know, the people that are involved, but the surrounding area, hence this power plant, okay? It generates power for the entire area, and if something happens to it, it will affect negatively the entire area in terms of, you know, power surges, or even worse, like chemical spills and things like that. So I feel that you're taking your job very seriously, and you're wielding a lot of power. You're wielding a tremendous amount of power where what you say, what your findings are, what your final determination is, it will affect a lot of people. And I just have to say, Leos, you know, us fire signs were incredibly ethical. We try to always walk down that straight and narrow path, okay? We're humans. We do stray from it, okay? But I do feel that for a lot of fire signs in general, ethics and morality goes a long way. You know, there's always a right and there's always a wrong. And we don't really mix the two, okay? Water signs always know there's a right and a wrong, but they make justifications based on their emotional attachment to a specific outcome. Air signs can rationalize. They rationalize, well, it's wrong in this context, but it could also be right in that context. I feel like for a lot of fire signs, there's a right and there's a wrong, and no matter what the circumstance, you know, the circumstance doesn't justify whether or not something is right or wrong. Those things are not malleable. And so I feel that you are wielding a tremendous amount of power here, and you're doing the right thing, because you understand that by, I guess, succumbing to, you know, pressure, or by not listening to your own sense of morality, it affects a lot of people. A lot of people around you, a lot of people that might not even be family members, that you might not even know them, you know, personally, but it affects their families, it affects their livelihoods, it affects their health. And so you're doing everything that you can to make your final determination on something, possibly to close something down, to shut something down that's not healthy, or to, you know, or to like find justice in a situation, okay? I see a lot of people here where you might be looking at, you know, the way somebody is raising a child, the way somebody is taking care of another person, and you're disagreeing with the way in which they do things. And for some of you, it is the holiday season. We're going to be dealing with a lot of family members. So I do feel some of these issues are coming up in the family unit. It's like, you should have done this as a mother, you should have done that as a father, you shouldn't treat your parents like this. All of those discussions, I feel, is coming into the picture, and I keep seeing like unfit. Somebody's unfit to do something. Somebody is unfit to take care of themselves, or they're not all mentally there, and they have somebody else who's managing their estate, or who's like a power of attorney, and that person's unfit because they're taking advantage of the person who's not able to take care of themselves. So I feel like all of these ethical, moral debates are coming into the picture, and I do see you discussing all of these things with family members in a very passionate manner. I don't see it being like an argument where we're arguing and screaming and um, slicing each other left and right. I don't see that. I just feel heavy discussions over somebody's qualifications, over somebody's capabilities, over, whether or not something is fit, or whether or not the situation needs to be shut down and closed off. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing. And we're 16 minutes into the reading. I just wanted to get that out of the way, okay, because I felt like it's much calmer now. I feel a lot calmer. The power plants, the looming sign, that radiation sign is so strong. Like it was so big, it was so visible, and I feel that that message needed to be conveyed, because I feel like there's a potentially toxic, hazardous situation, and it needs to be called out. It needs to be labeled for what it is, so that people know to avoid it, and it needs to be shut down. Okay, so that's just the bottom line. On the other hand, on a lighter note, okay, I do see two people here. So let me talk about these two people. I feel like that was the work situation. So let me talk about these two people here. I have one person who is who they're very much still interested in you, but I feel that you're turning your back on them, and you're turning away from them, and you're finding love and inspiration and passion and reciprocity elsewhere. Okay, I feel that you are upset and frustrated with this person, and this person is shown up here as the Knight of Cups. Okay, it seems almost like he's got a blob. It's like a paper bag over his head. Okay, that's what it feels like, doesn't it? So I feel that you are frustrated with this person. I feel that they do a lot of things that frustrate you. I also feel like they're overly affectionate and possibly a little bit needy. And I also feel that they're looking for you, wondering what you're up to, thinking about you, possibly even, trying to reach out to you. And I feel that you respond when you want to, but this person is no longer kind of like your top priority. I feel like once upon a time, the love between the two of you might have been very hot and heavy, okay? Because I do see an energy of like opposites attract. There might be a huge age difference. There might be like a cultural difference. There might also be like, it might be like an interracial coupling type of a thing. But I feel like there's a certain degree of, you guys are very dissimilar, okay? Very different from one another. And there's a certain degree of mismatch. And because of it, it's very passionate, it's very fun, it's exciting. But it ceases to be those things, because I do feel that you might be turning elsewhere for love and for validation and for, a relationship. And so this person is wondering what you're up to. This person is like not really sure how you feel about them. And they wish they could know how you feel about them, because they're wondering and always thinking. And, if you are a cross watcher, and this sounds like you, I just feel like with fire signs, what you see is what you get. Okay. Fire signs are very straightforward. If they're communicating with you, they like you. If they're not communicating with you, they pretty much have exited the picture. And so I feel that for many of you, you have left this person kind of like hanging, or you've just left them out in the cold. And they might, be bombarding you with messages, but I do feel that your heart is already elsewhere. And then I also feel for some of you, you might in like at the end of the day, decide that this whatever you had with this past person, I feel like it was lacking in emotional depth. It was lacking in like, it's like you talk about one thing and then they don't have an interest in it, so they steer the subject somewhere else. Or they talk about a certain topic and you have no interest in it, and so you just kind of like change the topic. So I feel like there's very little compatibility, and it created a situation where there was no chemistry. There was no emotional depth to the conversation, to the interaction. And when you it can feel to me like it's very time consuming or quite draining to be around this person. Not because they're a bad person. It just feels to me like it requires a lot of effort just to keep the conversation going, because you guys don't have a lot in common. I do feel that they really like you, and I do feel this person is incredibly intelligent, incredibly smart, but they're very smart. Queen of Swords, super smart, okay? Their mind is very sharp. They're very discerning and perceptive, and they're probably like the really book smart type of person, but emotionally they're not very intelligent.